I know everyone here so far, so thank you for being here. And I'm excited to share this work with you. This is my life's work that I have basically, I've been experiencing it my whole life, but been bringing it to other people for the past 10 years. So I'm really happy and grateful that you're here to uh, learn about this. So, just to give you a sense of what to expect today, this is the 4 vital steps to releasing fear. And this is about releasing any kind of fear that you may have that is only the false fear. We have 2 different kinds of fear. One is true fear, which is the kind that saves your life. And that one we do not mess with. With the one that we are going to be releasing and what we're going to be talking about today is any fear that is what I would call false fear. And I will go into what that means in a little bit. But the steps that I'm going to take you through are you'll learn 4 things that get in your way when you are experiencing fear. I'm going to teach you the 4 steps that is my process to release the fear. And I'm going to talk to you about why these steps are so important and why your mind is going to convince you to stay right where you are so that you end up repeating these same fear patterns. And so, what you're going to save by going through this training with me is years of suffering. I really don't want anyone to be experiencing this when they don't have to. And you'll save regret from not fully enjoying your life because sometimes when we are experiencing fear, it keeps us from the things that allow us to enjoy our lives. And you'll also save a lot of energy because fear, when you're experiencing it and you don't know how to release it, especially if you're trying to manage it, it actually drains so much of your life force energy. And what I want to teach you is going to help you turn that energy into fuel to achieving your goals, which I think is the most fun experience. And so, you may be wondering why I think I'm the best person to be teaching you this experience. And the reason is because I've basically been helping clients release fear for the last 10 years. And for the last year, I've been helping people release their karma, which one of the things I've learned about karma is that fear actually shows us what our karma is. And if you're not familiar with karma, I don't think there's anything, some people talk about good karma. I don't think that there's anything called good karma. I think that there's just karma, and it usually gets in our freaking way. And so when I work with my clients, I help you release that karma at the root that's blocking you from visibility, clients, income, those types of things. And I've done this for the past 10 years as a coach and a shamanic healer. And I do my work primarily in the presence of horses when the weather is wonderful, which is about to start happening now, which I'm really excited about getting back to the farm. And when the weather isn't so great, I still clear the karma. We just do it just like this on a Zoom with no horses. It works both ways. It's just a little more fun when we work with the horses, in my opinion. And so what I've learned is that I actually had this experience where I decoded fear. I really understood how fear works in the brain. And I've studied it for a very long time. And I'm always learning new things and I'm always incorporating it into my formula. And now I have this formula that I use to release my own fears. And I'm helping you release those fears as well. So not only does the formula help you release fears around marketing, around being visible, selling, that type of thing? It also has worked for me on my fear of heights. I have a phobia lifelong of heights, and I use my fear release formula anytime I want to do something that requires me to go high up, maybe like, climb a cliff or something like that. I can do those things now because I have this formula. I've also had a terrifying fear of snakes that I now, if I see a snake, I do not freak out, which is kind of amazing in my when I think about it, because it used to be like I would totally not be okay when they were around. And the other thing is that I suffered from like decades of anxiety, and I'm able to clear anxiety at the root, and I don't have to use medication anymore. There was a time in my life whenever I had an anxiety or a panic attack, I would need to take medicine to just kind of run calm. Now I naturally run calm because I've incorporated my 4 steps into my life. And so fear used to really make me reactive to life, which I have to say didn't make me very fun to be around. I had anxiety, as I mentioned, for decades. I had that phobia of heights. I was pretty much afraid of a lot of things. I remember being afraid of sharks, snakes, horses, like horses that I work with now. I used to be terrified of them. And even when I knew I was called to be working with them, I was terrified of them. So I had to really use my 4 steps to get over that fear. And the other thing that happened is when I had my baby, she's 13 now, but when I had her, I was having like waves of panic attacks. Like I had postpartum anxiety. It was really difficult to be a mother because I couldn't even let people hold her because I didn't want them to like give her germs. Like I had like every fear I ever had like magnified when I had my child. And so I don't have those fears anymore, obviously, because I'm able to release them through this formula. And so what was happening is that fear was actually making my life feel smaller. So, for example, I have a terrifying fear of public speaking. And every time I need to get on WeMeet or, go on a Zoom like this, or, I've stood up in front of rooms full of people to teach this formula. I actually do my 4 steps right before I get on. So my idea is that I like to release a fear that I have before I have to go do the thing that I'm afraid to do. And now like today, I actually didn't have to do that because I was on a call with a client. I jumped off. I came right on here. I didn't even do my 4 steps because I've been able to embody this idea. I know exactly what to do. I don't have to like go, oh, step 1, 2, 3, 4. I can just kind of get in the zone where I'm not afraid to be here and to speak. The other thing that I was experiencing a lot of, especially as I was building my business, is the fear of being seen, the fear of success, and the fear of failure, and the fear of judgment, of people rejecting me, that type of thing. And also being afraid of my own power was a big one for me. And so, especially as a shamanic healer, sometimes people bring me some pretty difficult stuff. And it's in the beginning, I would shy away from bigger things. I wasn't sure. Didn't know what to do. And now I have really understood that I can help pretty much anyone with anything. And that's kind of how I approach. So I don't even sometimes care what people are bringing me anymore. I'm just like, I just meet them where they are and I help them. And I'll give you a good example of this. I had a client come to me and they have cerebral palsy, which is a pretty difficult diagnosis and a way of living. And they've never felt okay in their body. And I don't feel scared from that. I just meet them where they are. And then when they're done after their session, they feel like they've never felt better in their body. And so to me, it's like, imagine if I was worried about, my power, or worried about anything like that, I could never meet that person where they are and help them to feel that good in their body. So I just wanted to share that with you because I think it's really important, especially when we are in our zones of genius. If we're going at it and we don't feel like we can do it, if we're feeling like we're afraid of our own power, it actually isn't in service to the client. And, it doesn't matter if you're a healer or whatever. Like I think about, Dawn, you work in taxes. If you have somebody that has a big audit going on, if you're coming at it and you're not feeling like you're in your power in that moment, you won't serve the client as well as if you're coming through it knowing that you can help them with anything that is coming up for them, which I know you can because you're an expert at this. And so when I was just becoming a life coach, I remember being like, I had this like all this anxiety, all of this. I was terrified of heights. And I was reading my mentor's book. There was a statement in it. It said, the only way to a place beyond fear is to do the thing you fear the most. And I shut the book. I was like, there is no freaking way that I can do what I know I need to do in order to sort of what she was referring to, like break your fear. And her idea was that you push through the fear, that you just go do it no matter what. And I thought to myself, how in the world am I going to be able to break my fear of heights, which is what I knew I needed to do in order to feel sort of unstoppable. And interestingly, I felt like I had to do that before life coach training. I wasn't going to learn anything in life coach training that would help me do that. So I decided to do it myself. And it took me 3 days and 3 attempts to go to the place that I knew I needed to go to, which was inside a glass elevator. I had been in this glass elevator before and I had a major panic attack. My friend decided to invite me to a lunch and she said, "Oh yeah, meet me at 42 Main Street." And I thought she meant like the address was 42 Main Street, but it was actually the name of the restaurant was 42 Main Street. And it was on the 42nd floor of the building. And I could not. I was having, panic attacks. My hands would sweat before I'd even get into the city when I even thought about the idea. Like I could bring the idea of going into the elevator and I would whip myself into a panic attack, which was not really being in control of how I wanted to be. Like I wanted to be able to just get into the elevator. And the first attempt, I got into the city of White Plains where this restaurant was, and I turned my car around. I couldn't do it. And then the second time I went, I got to about park my car. I saw the building and I whipped myself into a panic attack. And then on the third day, it was the day before my life coach training was starting. And I had made that intention that I was going to get into that elevator. And what ended up happening is I couldn't find the elevator. No one knew. Every person I asked didn't know where the elevator was. And then I finally find it and I'm standing in front of the elevator and my body is completely frozen and I cannot move. I can't even get my finger to push the button to like open the elevator doors. And I start praying to my mother. I'm like, "Mom," my mom had passed away the year before. I'm like, "Mom, I really need to do this. Like, I want to break my fear. I just can't get into the elevator. Can you help me?" And as I'm doing that, I feel a tap on my shoulder and a man is behind me and he looks at me and I'm talking to myself. So he must think I'm completely nutso. And he says, "Are you okay?" And my whole body just like relaxed. And I was like, "Nope, not okay." And he said, "What's wrong?" And I told him that I was trying to break my fear of heights and I was trying to get into this elevator and I just could not. And he just looks at me and he's like, "You want me to go with you?" And I was like, "Yes, please do that." And so he pushed the elevator button. And then I was able to walk into the elevator. And we rode up to the 42nd floor in this glass, like floor to ceiling glass elevator. And it felt like the most wonderful experience. Like I even have a photograph of me like smiling with him because I couldn't believe that I could actually be in this elevator and feel these amazing feelings and smile. And like we snapped the selfie. And I felt like if you ever watched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory at the end where he like is in the glass elevator and it like floats away and he's singing a song, that's what it felt like. And it really like got me curious because I was like, what the heck happened in that elevator to make me feel like I felt so amazing when the other time I was in that elevator, I was screaming like a baby, terrified. So I really wanted to understand what were the conditions that made it so that I could get in this elevator in this way. And so on the way back down, well, on the way up, he said, "What do you want to do now that we're at the top?" And I should have said, "Let's go to lunch." But instead, I said, "I guess we should go back down." And on the way back down, I asked him, I said, "What made you stop me? Like we're in New York. People are not necessarily friendly to strangers. Like they usually just walk by them and ignore them." And he said, "I was coming out of the bathroom and I saw you and something told me that you needed my help." And I believe that was my mom when I asked her to send help. That was her way of being able to help me. And so when I was, off the elevator, I thanked him and I just, kind of went on my merry way. I started to realize that after I broke that fear, after I what I was calling breaking the fear, my other fears started to dissolve. And I was afraid of a lot of things. And I just like couldn't understand like what was going on in my brain that all of a sudden was like unraveling. And what was happening is that the steps that I'm going to teach you today were actually becoming part of how I just was. And I remember thinking, okay, I can do all these things I never was able to do before. So, for example, I could go on a bridge. I could go on, like, stand on a cliff and see these beautiful vistas and feel amazing. And like before, I would never even go near a cliff because it would terrify me, the even thought of it. I would have all kinds of thoughts that would make me think I was going to fall off. And also, I would physically get vertigo. So I would get super dizzy, and then it would make me feel really unsafe, especially on like a trail or something like that, because I think I could slip. And then my partner at the time said, we were on our way to Sydney, and he wanted, sort of like, he almost wanted me to prove to him that I had broken my fear. And he's like, you could strap yourself to a bridge. And there's like the Sydney Bridge. You can actually, there's an activity where you strap yourself to the bridge and then you climb over the bridge. And in a million years, I was like, no, I have no desire to climb over a bridge. I have no desire to prove myself to you. And I could not get myself to do that experience. And it wasn't because my fear of heights was still there. It just, I couldn't get my brain around how to get into that zone where I was in the glass elevator. So that's why I think there is a difference between, like, I don't think people should break fears for the hell of it. I think they are conditions that can be made. And I only want people to break fear that's stopping them from doing something that is going to be useful in their life, that's going to bring them joy, that's going to be useful, bring clients, that type of thing. So that's why I'm specific on how I help people in this way. So you are in the right place if you are feeling any kind of fear that is like for an extended period of time. So, like, for example, if you're feeling more than 90 seconds worth of fear, then this training is going to totally help you. And if you're allowing fear to take up more space in your brain than a goal, a desire, and a dream do, you're definitely going to benefit from this particular training. And if you feel stuck in any kind of cycle of self-doubt, this 4-step process is going to really help you. If you feel like you're afraid that you're not enough, and I'll just, insert any word in there. So you're not smart enough, good enough, anything like that, this training is definitely going to be very helpful. And if you are certain that you're meant for more and you're meant to do big things, and you just can't find a way to do what's necessary to create that, then this training is going to be super useful. And also, if you feel any kind of feel burned out, drained, overwhelmed, those types of things from trying to push through the things that scare you, then this is definitely going to be a better way for you to approach. If you feel stress, insomnia, uncertainty, or brain fog, all of those symptoms go away when we use the 4 steps. And if you feel hesitant, like you're procrastinating on things, definitely this will help you eliminate step 3 for sure, eliminates procrastination. And if you feel like you hate making mistakes and you feel totally resistant to trying something new, which because you're afraid of making mistakes, this formula is going to be super useful. And if you ever felt like you're going to compare yourself to someone else who's in your industry or in any situation, I definitely recommend applying these 4 steps to that situation as well. If you are avoiding opportunities and being in places for no logical business reason, then you're definitely going to benefit from this training. So if you're doing any of those things, you just might be missing one of the steps that I'm going to be sharing with you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the ways that you might be trying to release your fear that are not working. And these things, the reason I'm bringing them up is because they tend to reinforce your fear, which you think it's going to release, but it actually gets stronger. And I just want to highlight these things before I teach you the 4 steps. So the first is when you are trying to prove yourself, like I was saying before, how this person wanted me to prove to him that I could that I had broken my fear and that my steps worked. And he wanted me to, like, tether myself to a bridge to prove him. That will never work. And so the reason is because when you are doing something like that, you're actually going to be using energy, that fear energy, to try to prove it to someone else, it actually makes you feel exhausted. And you also will feel an intense vulnerability hangover. And this also happens when we are trying to, like, maybe you have a business coach who says, oh, you must do video, but you really are afraid of video and you're not releasing your fear around it. You will feel complete vulnerability hangover every time you push record. And so if you feel like you need tons of time to recover, then that's actually a waste of time, because you could be actually applying whatever it is that you're doing and being more productive. And when you're trying to prove yourself to someone, it's actually born out of fear. It's not born out of love, which is why it's draining you. So the next thing that I notice a lot happening is when we try to push down our fear or push it away because we don't want it. And so that tends to happen when you are maybe beating yourself up, or you feel ashamed for experiencing the fear in the first place, or even having this fear at all. And so that used to happen a lot to me, especially around the fear of heights. My partner loved to be in like hotels, and he loved to be in the highest floor to get the view. And I was terrified. So my choice was like, okay, I can either like beg him to have a hotel room at a lower floor, or I have to suffer. And sometimes I could push through it, but it really did not feel very good. And I also had that experience when I was in corporate. I was in the advertising industry as a lead executive. So I was running, teams of 20 people. And I would have to come to work, and I was on the 33rd floor for most of my career, which was horrific. And I had this beautiful like office. It was a corner office. It had windows all around, and two of the walls were windows, floor to ceiling. And people would make fun of me because my office, I would face the door. I could not face the window. Like everybody else that had those kinds of offices was taking advantage of the view and like enjoying the view. And I was like terrified of the view. And I could not get them to move our floor. I tried really hard to speak to the CEO to, could we buy a lower floor? Could there be a different experience for me? And yeah, it was pretty terrifying. And so that didn't make me the best. I would say I wasn't in my highest self, right? Because I was always having a panic attack whenever we were on that floor. So anytime I could have meetings outside of the office, or I could have meetings on a lower floor, I would always try to manipulate that situation so that I didn't have to suffer. But I now know that there's a better way. So what tends to happen when we are trying to push something down or push it away is it actually comes back really strong, and it like kind of reinforces the fear, which is what we don't want, especially when the fears are around our goals, or they're around like how we take action, that type of thing. You don't want the fear coming back stronger, because then you end up resisting it even more, the goal. And so the other thing that happens that I see a lot of is avoiding things that you're afraid of. So it actually, just when you're avoiding the things that you're afraid of, it actually makes your life smaller and smaller and smaller, which is what I was explaining before. And you forget that, what you were doing that made this like experience in the first place, and your fear will compound over time. And your goals get further and further away from you when you approach it that way with avoidance. And the fourth way that I see a lot of people doing is trying to find safer ways of doing things. And what that does is it leads to indulging in confusion, which is one of the main things that people will come to me for, is they feel really confused about whatever it is that they are trying to achieve. And the reason that confusion is a problem is because we indulge in it. Like, because it's so strange, but the way the brain works is it likes what's familiar. And what's familiar feels safe, even when what's familiar is not good for us. So for example, if confusion is familiar, then we will keep going back to confusion, even though it's not actually going to get us where we want to go. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of effort to get over the confusion. But really, if you release the fear, the confusion goes away. And so you end up preparing for all the ways that things will go wrong when you are trying to find the safer way. And what that does is it reinforces your fear, and you end up suffering even more when you're trying to look for the safer ways. And so now I'm going to teach you the 4 steps process that actually works to release the fear. And the first step is finding the truth. And what I've noticed from coaching people for the last 10 years around this topic of fear is that the only thing that's keeping you from achieving a goal is some version of fear. And after 10 years of coaching clients, the ones that I notice are the most common fears that I see are fear of public speaking. They don't want to get on a video. They don't want to get up in front of a lot of people and speak because they are terrified of that. It's one of the most common ones. There's also a fear of being found out. Like maybe you think in your subconscious mind that you're not maybe good enough to at your craft or something like that. And you feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like a fraud. You're not a fraud. Most people that I work with are not a fraud. They are just feeling this false fear. And the other one that I work with people on, obviously, is heights, because they see my story around being afraid of heights, and they don't want that to be running their show. Fear of success, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough, fear of rejection, loneliness, uncertainty, and change. Those are some really big things that I would say encompass when you're feeling some sort of fear. And what's interesting about fear is that, so it's an emotion, but the emotion creates a behavior. And so some of the fear-based behaviors that keep us stuck are things like people pleasing. So you're out there feeling you're feeling like you're going to be rejected, so you try to overgive and please other people when it actually burns you out, and you end up giving things that from sort of an empty cup. The other thing that happens is we compare ourselves to other people when we're experiencing fear, and then we feel like a fraud. Like I was saying, we have what's called imposter syndrome. We have procrastination. So if we're afraid to make a mistake, we won't actually go ahead and try something different because we're afraid it's not going to work. And then also perfectionism. So it can't launch something, can't put it out until it's absolutely perfect, because God forbid someone judges us if something is not perfect. And I remember having a coach one time tell me that I could not do I should not ever do a video without, my outfit being perfect, high heels on, hair blown out, all these things. And I'm like, I work at a farm. There is no way that I cannot do video unless need to have a ponytail. I need to be able to have my, what's safe to work around a horse, like that kind of outfit. Right. And so did you have a question, Christina? Oh, you're leaving. Okay. Christina had to jump off. Okay. So when I think about those fear-based behaviors, they actually are driving the results that we get, right? So if you have a thought that creates an emotion of fear that creates an action that's not serving you, it will create a result that you don't want. And so that's why I totally believe that we need to release fear so that we're taking actions from a place of a higher feeling emotion, and that will create the results that we want. And so when I think about finding the truth, the one thing that I take my clients through is really discerning and finding facts, like finding facts about whatever the situation is that you're experiencing fear about. And you want to separate the fact from the story that you're telling yourself. And one of the things that I found interesting when I was doing this work and understanding fear is that 85% of the things that people worry about never actually happen. And there's a Cornell University did a study, and they found this, that this is what people are spending their energy on, is like things that never actually happen. And there is really a golden lesson that comes from negative outcomes. That's the other thing. It's like when Cornell did this study, they realized that 15% of the worries that came true, so of all the worries that came true, 15% of them, out of all the people that were having worries, only 15% actually came true. And when they came true, those people experienced how capable they actually were. And then they learned something from the thing that they were afraid of or thing that they were worried about. So there was so much value in coming into that experience instead of avoiding it and then never getting the learning, never understanding how actually capable you are of doing something. And after 10 years of entrepreneurship, I feel like that is one of the things that I feel I got out of being able to release my fear and being able to get things done, is that I really truly feel capable of doing anything. Even if like a new social media platform comes around, I feel capable of actually going out and getting it done. And so when we find the facts, you want to find out what exactly is contributing to your fear. You want to separate the facts from the story that you're telling yourself. And then you want to follow those facts because they will tell you the truth. So you want to make your decisions from the facts, not from the story that you're telling yourself. But most women, most people are going and making the decisions from the story that they keep telling themselves. And sometimes they almost believe the story is the truth when actually the story that they're telling themselves is the illusion. It's the fear. And so an example of that might be like, if you are telling yourself that you're not good enough, but actually all the results that you have from your client experiences are that you are good enough, that you are helping people and all of that. But your brain will keep telling you, even if you have 100 testimonials of how great you are, or, all these satisfying results, your brain is always going to lie to you. I always say the brain lies to you with reckless abandon. It just doesn't, it's just its job, right? It's just keep feeding you the lies. And the beauty is when you can see through that illusion. And so what I notice, I'm going to actually share my screen. I have a video to show because I really think that this video shows what the energy, because sometimes we can't see energy. I'm going to show you a quick thing on how horses behave when we're speaking the truth.
Oh, just say I have a book club and see if anybody wants it, even if it's not ready yet.
Why does that scare you?
Because what if I don't have enough time? I don't have a lot of hours for my business. I have a kid and, all the other things that come along with being an adult. And, and so I worry, well, what if I make a promise I can't keep it? Because I keep my promises.
But just watch as the horse is coming to me. I'm telling the coach the truth about a book club. I was doing this offer, and I was saying, like, what if I just say I have a book club instead of like worrying about all the things, all the marketing, what I'm gonna say. And as soon as I did that, the horse came all the way over to me, which is the beauty of working with horses, is that they always feel the energy of someone who's telling the truth. And they also feel the energy of someone who is lying to themselves. So if you would ever go up to a horse and start talking to them about something about you that is not true, that your brain is telling you and you think is the gospel, they will not want to be anywhere near you, because horses do not like what's called incongruence, where the inside expression doesn't match the outside expression. So for example, if you don't, let's just give an example of like a relationship. If you really are, you think you should love your husband, but you don't love your husband, like you have so much going on that it's time for a divorce. Sometimes what we say, we think we should say, that's what we're talking to people. Like we're saying these words, like I'm staying with my husband. I love my husband, but inside you really don't. The horse will be able to show it to you. It's like that clear, because it will sense the incongruency and the energy of what you're actually feeling versus what you're conditioned and programmed to think. And so I'll give you another example. If let's just say I had a client who felt like she needed to be on Instagram. So like in marketing, she's like, I need to be on Instagram. Like everyone's on Instagram, and like Instagram is the place to be. And so she really wanted to like create a marketing plan around Instagram. And every time she would talk about Instagram, the horse could not be further away in the paddock. Like it didn't want to be anywhere near her. And as soon as she got to the real truth of what her marketing plan was, which was she just really wanted to bring people into Reiki circles. She wanted to do free Reiki circles and then allow people to talk about her free Reiki circles, bring more people in, and then sell after those free Reiki circles. That's actually what her marketing plan was. It was email and Reiki circles, and that was it. And it was so perfect for her. But she kept telling herself this story that she needed to be on social media, she needed to be on Instagram, and she ended up becoming fully booked just on word of mouth and doing this process that was actually when the horse would want to be anywhere near her. She was like buying into a story that other people were telling her that wasn't actually right for her. So I think it's really important to understand what is the story that you're telling yourself about why you're afraid. What's the story you're telling yourself that's causing you fear? So in her mind, it was the idea of using a new technology for her, which was Instagram, trying to learn it. She's, was let's see, she was in her 70s and she did not she didn't like technology. She was like, I'd rather just, like when she was a Reiki master for a long time and before social media. So she just felt like, oh, everybody's on social media, I should be there too, which was a total lie. So when you find the truth about the story that you're telling yourself, then you can actually choose to think differently. And so step 2 is thinking differently. And what I want to share with you is I always say that horses are a tangible 1,000-pound metaphor for the universe that always leads you towards the truth because of that energetic thing I explained to you. They will always sense what is going on internally with you versus what you are expressing on the outside. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about why that is. So your thoughts, like I was saying before, your thoughts create a feeling, right? Your feeling actually is energy in motion. So that's what emotions are. They come off of your body and they impact everyone around you. So if you have a feeling and it's coming off the body as energy, the horses will be able to feel that energy and they know when it's clean and clear and true to you. And they know like it's like your intention is matching what's going on the outside. They feel they want to snuggle up to that. They will come so close to you. They'll be really, really safe. But if you are lying to yourself about something like that woman that was lying to herself about social media, about Instagram, they don't want to be near that. And the reason is because predators in the wild, because horses are prey animals and humans are predators, but also they experience predators out in the wild. They have the inside intention that they want to feed. They're hungry. They want to feed on the horse. But the outside expression is, hey, we're going to socialize. I'm going to come up to the watering hole and like take some water, because they're pretending to do that. It's a natural thing that the predators have figured out. They're actually more successful if they don't immediately pounce on the herd, if they just kind of saunter up and figure it out. But what usually happens, and you can watch this on Nature Channel, it's pretty interesting. If you see these videos on YouTube, you can see that as soon as the predator is coming up to the horses, there is a lead horse all the time. And the lead horse will automatically be scanning for that information, right? For where the beings around it are not congruent. And as soon as they sense that incongruency, and they can sense it for up to like 50 yards, they will start running, and then every horse around them will follow them. And what's really cool about horses is that there's always a leader, and it's almost always the matriarchal mare. So the mare that's had the children and had the foals, because their senses get really heightened after they give birth. And so they're always the most clear, present, and aware because they're looking out for their foals. And there's only 3 times when the matriarchal mare isn't the leader. And that's when she's making the babies, when she's having the babies, and when she doesn't feel well, right? So, and in those moments, if that predator were to come into the herd's vicinity, there is always a leader. And so the leadership shifts immediately. And it's always the most clear, present, and aware being, whether it's female or male horse, whichever one it is going to be the one who senses the issue and then starts running. But what's really cool is the entire herd instantaneously knows exactly who that is. They know who the leader is. They know to follow the leader, even when it's not the matriarchal mare. It's not like they're identifying it with a particular horse. They just are sensing the energy of where the shift is and where they need to move to stay to safety. And horses are the oldest surviving prey animals on the planet because of this highly intuitive ability to sense energy. And I always say that, and I don't ride and I don't do riding in my work, but I always think about people who get thrown. And whenever I find out someone is thrown, I always ask them, like, what's going on? What do you think happened? Or what were you thinking? You got on there? Like, I was terrified, but I was trying to be brave. Right. So that's actually your inside intention not matching your outside expression. And the horse doesn't want to be anywhere near you. So they're like, get off my back. And they want to get away from that energy. And what's really interesting to me is that I think about that when people are afraid to public speak, let's just say, and they want to get up on video and start talking to people. And then they realize, oh, this isn't, nothing's quite landing. It's the same thing because they're trying to be brave and they're trying to push through their fear. And then they're getting in front of the camera, if they can push through it, and nothing is really landing. It's usually because the inside intention isn't matching the outside expression, because not only do horses feel this energy, but also humans feel this energy. Our clients feel this energy. And what the client needs to feel is like trust and safety to buy. But, what somebody might be experiencing isn't that. So right now we're on the topic of thinking differently. So there's some thoughts that can keep us stuck when we're feeling doubt and things like that. And one of the things, these are just general thoughts. There's lots of we have like something like 50,000 thoughts in a day. So we have a lot of things going through our minds. But of the 50,000 thoughts, I think it's like 80% of those thoughts are negative and 95% of those thoughts are repetitive. So there's only like a few that are really running through the conscious mind that we are aware of. And some of them can be like, I could totally fail at this. I don't know what to do. That's confusion. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what I want, or I'm not ready, or I don't trust myself. Like those things will keep us stuck. But also those things can be on like sort of a repetitive loop in our brains, which is continually keeping us from what we want to do. So I call that the unmanaged mind. And that when you have an unmanaged mind, that will cause you to sabotage a goal. And it tends to put us into what I would call martyr mindset. And that's when we think things happen to me. So we get into this like, everything's kind of going in the wrong direction. And that's when we really struggle. And it's really easy to get from this martyr mindset into the next level of mindset, which is called creator mindset. And creator mindset is when things happen by me. And there is a step that I love to teach people, and that is to just ask yourself, when you start to feel like shit is going wrong and you're struggling, if you can remember to ask yourself, why is this happening for me? Or even thinking the thought, things happen for me, instead of thinking they're happening to me, right? It's a different perspective. You go from being like the martyr and I have to fix everything, or the victim, everything's happening to me, to, oh, wait, things are happening for me. How is this happening for me? How am I being guided? Maybe God is guiding me in this direction, or whatever words you want to use. That little sentence really helps me shift into what I would call creator mindset, which is things happen by me, so that I actually have a little bit more agency over what's going on in my life. And so this is the video of the energy of the martyr mindset. So I'll tell you, you won't be able to hear the video. It's not really necessary. It's more for you to see what's going on in the video with this horse. So my job is to get this horse to move. And I've got this like long line in my hand, and I'm starting to like toss it towards his direction, giving him a little energy to get him to move. And he has wants nothing to do with me. He's just like, what is she doing? And I'll tell you that I am in my life, I'm in my Equus coach training. I'm supposed to demonstrate to my person who's training me that I can move this horse. with my energy and not touch the horse to get it to move. And I'm also being watched by all of my classmates, which is very much a lot of pressure and mimics a lot of life experience where, you know, you might be like right now, I'm in a training, you're watching me, right? I could totally feel, I could experience a lot of thoughts about what's going on here. And so in that particular scenario, the horse did not move. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I'll tell you what I was thinking in that moment. I was thinking like, this horse is never freaking moving. I can't get it to move. It won't move, right? Because I'm looking at what's going on in the 3D reality is I'm tossing a lead line. I'm doing all the things that they taught me to do, right? And I'm trying to get this horse to move and it's not because my inside intention is not matching my outside expression. That horse will do nothing that I want it to do. And what was so interesting is to be able to be in that moment and recognize like, oh, I'm going about this the wrong way. And then being able to watch this video and see my body language was, I don't know if you could see, I was actually leaning backwards instead of like, I want the horse to go forward, but I'm leaning backwards. Like that's probably not the best body language to be showing, right? So my intention was I want him to move forward, but none of my expression was like actually getting him to do that. And so I'm going to show you that when you have a well-managed mind, it actually creates the flow, which is the energy that I'm going to show you in the next video of how you can get a horse to move without really touching them is exactly the way we can get our goals to come towards us as well. And so this is what I would call the energy of flow. And I can tell you from clients that have worked with me that when they find the truth, which is the flow, they actually can feel when it is in alignment, and the horses show you when it's in alignment, whether you are physically present with a horse. It also works when you're virtually with a horse, which is really even more powerful, I feel like, than being in person with the horse because of this. So I'll show you exactly what's going on here. So now the horse is finally moving. So that horse was moving. So I'm doing the same, like getting him to move with my energy. But the difference between the first video and this video is that I realized like, oh, I'm actually not thinking the horse isn't going to move anymore. Actually changed my thoughts. I said, oh, the horse moves. The horse wants to move. We're connected. Like I was able to, without any like technical differences in my body, other than I stopped going backwards, I started to like show him I wanted him to go forward. I started thinking really amazing thoughts about how he wanted to move and how we were connected. And I also started to, instead of feeling that frustration that I was feeling in the first part, like dancing and trying to get him to move and feeling like, why isn't this working? I actually was like, no, we're connected. I felt like oneness with him. I felt love with him, which is so interesting because when I think about even clients, if I feel frustrated that no one's coming, guess what happens? No one comes. And if I feel love and connection and all of those things, that actually creates the same flow that I want to create in, I'm creating with that horse. I learned I can do that actually without horses at all. And I can do it and clients will show up. So that's how I end up with clients working with me because I'm always thinking about, I want to be in flow. I want to be in service. I want to be in love. I want to be not in frustration and all the things that I was experiencing in that first video. And so what I can share with you is I knew what I wanted in that video. I wanted him to move. I wasn't confused that he would, I stopped it. I was just like, okay, no more confusion. I know exactly where I want him to go. I want him to, and the other thing is even being as specific as like, I want him to circle in the direction of left. Like when I started to think about that and visualize him doing that, he picked it up immediately. And humans do this too. It's like, if we're not sure where we want them to go as a next step, nobody knows what step to take. So I thought about how I trusted myself to be able to do that work. And you have to understand, that was, 10 years ago, before I knew what I was doing around horses. And I still trusted myself that the stuff that I was being taught, I could implement. And so I needed to thought that I know what to do. I can do this. I am ready to do this. And I know how to do this. Like those thoughts are so important for being able to accomplish any kind of goal that you want. Like, I feel like those are like the super thoughts that really help us. Hold on, let me see. I think I just missed I went back. Where do you see my, you don't see my screen anymore, do you? Or do you see, okay, hold on. I totally.
No, I see you and me.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to do it again. I'll share it again. All right. It's like one little quick swipe of the hand and you can't see videos anymore. Okay, so if I go to Canva, there we go. It should work. Okay, so I had a client named Christy, and this is what she said after working with me. She said she was feeling despair, and Jen helped me remember who I was and refocus, allowing me to get crystal clear. She makes you think about things from many different angles and perspectives, and she helps you see the roadblocks that you are setting up for yourself, all the while supporting you along the way. And in the end, I got everything I wanted and more. And now I love the work that I'm doing, and the goodness keeps on coming. So that's Christy Napier. And so I want you to just ask yourself, how can you think differently about your goal? So you can insert whatever it is that you are experiencing fear about. So if it's like a financial goal or a number of clients goal or a personal goal, so anything like that, you just want to ask yourself, like, how can I think differently? Like, grab one of the thoughts that I had on the other screen. That will be super useful. Now I'm going to take you through step 3, which is lead with your heart. So we were talking before about when you are procrastinating or something like that. I feel like this one is super useful for being able to not procrastinate something. And so what I want to say about this one is asking yourself the question, why do I want to release this fear? Like when I think about that experience I was telling you about, where the person wanted, my partner wanted me to tether myself to a bridge in order for him to like kind of believe that I had broken this fear, because he had been with me for a very long time and he experienced all my panic attacks and all the times I wouldn't go to the top of the floor and all of that. So he didn't really believe that. He thought it was a fluke. He wasn't sure. So he was like, tether yourself to that bridge basically, and he'll believe me. And I could not think of a freaking reason why I me personally wanted to tether myself to a bridge. I had no good reason to do it, which is why I highly don't recommend doing that. I don't recommend releasing fears for other people because it won't work. Like there's just no motivation for you. And so there's really no reason to do a step if you have no reason to break the fears. So that's why I say only break the fears that are getting in the way of something that you want. So if, for me, if I'm terrified to public speak, it does not serve me to indulge in that fear because it doesn't get me in front of anyone if I'm terrified to speak in public. So, I speak at fairs, I speak in at conferences, things like that, where there's lots of people in front of me. Well, I would never do that if I was, indulging in my fear of public speaking. So instead, I release the fear and then I'm able to get up in front of people. So there's a reason why I'm doing that, because I want to get this work in front of as many people as I can. In fact, I have a goal. So I do fearless goal setting. So I set a goal. I want to help 1 million people in my lifetime release their fears. Like that's my goal. So how could I possibly do that if I'm experiencing the fear of public speaking? I'm not going to be able to get to 1 million people if I do it one person at a time, right? So I'm doing my best, or if I only do it once, right? I need to be out there, as much as I can during the year and seeing as many people as I can, teaching them this formula. What I want to impress upon you is if fear and your heart's desire are pointing in the same direction, that's when you want to release a fear. If you are like, the fear is this direction and your heart's desire is over there, there's just no reason. That's actually something that should be, directed away from. And so when your motivation is also born from fear and not love, it doesn't work. So I will tell you, in the beginning part of my business, so, as you know, because you're an entrepreneur, when you're building a business, entrepreneurship will bring up all of your freaking fears. It just does it. It's just like natural. When you work in corporate, even if you, like, I was a leader in the corporate advertising, like I was one of the lead executives. So I had my fear of public speaking, and it was terrifying. So I didn't know how to break that fear. So I would just delegate it to other people, but it didn't serve me to give everybody. I would say, oh, but it's going to help their career if they get to go in front of all the people and speak. Well, guess whose career it didn't help? Mine, because I kept putting other people up in these visible perspectives. And so when it came time for the organization to restructure, I was one of the people that they restructured after being there for 20 years, because I wasn't willing to get up in front of large groups of people and speak. But the other people I was giving all that experience to, they were. So they got to keep their job, and I got restructured out, which I was totally fine with, because I had already found life coaching by then, and I was delighted to be restructured out of that organization. When I started building my business, I realized, oh, what's the why behind why I'm going to get up there and do the scary things, right? I need to know what that is. And I kept thinking that I wanted to be the person who got my daughter off the bus. That was my reason. I want to be the one that gets all the goods, right? And like, here's what's going on in her day and all that. I want to be the first. I don't want it to be translated by a babysitter, because then I'll miss everything and I won't hear it from her, and she won't see me as the first person ready to get her off the bus. That was like my big why, which seems like a really good why, right? Seems like, oh yeah, of course I want to be a good mother. Well, guess what? Me wanting to be a good mother stems from fear. It's all the times I didn't feel like a good mother. It stemmed from me working, in a corporate job that was more than 40 hours a week, that had her in daycare for 12 hours a day. That, because I had a 2-hour commute each way to get to the job, and then I had to be there, and then I would get her home, I would feed her, play with her for a little while, then I would put her to bed, I would go back to work, and I wouldn't sleep. That's not what I was, when I was thinking about me being a mother, that wasn't really the desires and the things I was thinking about wanting to be, right? And so when I had all this flexibility in my schedule, I could be the one who got her off the bus, but that wasn't from love. That was from fear. That was from guilt. That was from all kinds of negative emotions and wanting to feel better. And what was interesting is that I couldn't get myself to do the scary things when I had that as my why. And instead, I realized I need to go way deeper than just like the thing that's coming to me as the thing. So I actually go really deep with my clients into this idea of, why am I wanting to do this particular thing? And when I did that, and I did it for myself first, and then I do it for my clients, what I realized was that my actual why was that I wanted my daughter to see an empowered mother. That's all I want for her. I want her to grow up empowered. I don't want her to ever feel like someone can take power from her. Like, I really wanted her to see that I could get up there. I could do things that didn't, that weren't like totally easy for me, but I could make them easy. And I wanted her to see that. And to me, that was her seeing an empowered mother. And that's what I love about step 3, is that it totally lets you do that. And so why do I say lead with your heart? It's because when we're working with horses, their hearts are 5 to 10 times larger than the human heart. And they have they create what's called coherent heart rhythms. And what's really interesting to me is that they can do it in person. And we have a lot of studies behind that we have measurements and all that stuff to track, that they can direct all of the hearts that are around them, because most of the human hearts are smaller. So their electromagnetic field is bigger. And what'll happen is your heart starts beating at the rate of this particular horse that's near you, or many horses that are near you. And what I find so fascinating about that is, when that happens, people can open up more. They can talk about things they can't really talk about when they don't have a horse around them. So it's really the reason why there's a lot of veterans that have been through PTSD and all of that. They are able to talk about things that happened to them when they were at war or whatever, when there is a horse around. and they feel calmer and all of that. And so that's what's really happening, is that horses are really efficient at managing fear, like, or processing it, releasing it. What happens is, like, that scenario of, like, there's a predator and it's coming and it's going to try to feed on the herd, and the horses need to run. They're flight animals, they will run. As soon as they're safe, as soon as that predator is no longer a threat, they just go right back to grazing, watering, whatever they're doing, hanging out. And they're not thinking like, oh, is there going to be they're not like in that sort of hypervigilant mode anymore. They're just back to rest and relaxation. So that's why when their hearts are directing things, they just know how to manage fear really easily, right? So they're not running like we are, which is sometimes we're running on our sympathetic nervous system instead of our parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic is the fight, flight, freeze experience, right? And so humans are the only animals that have to do something to switch our body's nervous system to go back to rest and relaxation. We have to do something in order to do that. It doesn't just naturally happen, but with animals, it naturally happens, right? It's like really pretty interesting why, I don't know why we weren't designed this way, but one of the things that's beautiful is that these horses can really affect your nervous system, which I love. And what I'm noticing, as I've been doing this for several years, working with people virtually with horses, the same thing happens, because the energy that they're radiating off of their bodies is going through the Zoom. And so what I want to ask is, why is it important for you to release whatever fears that you're experiencing? So that's a question that you can ask yourself. And when you lead with your heart, you actually create trust. And so step 4 is creating trust. What I want to say here is that your body is literally a compass, and it can help you detect fear. It can help you detect a lie. It actually is the thing that when you go, like, let's just say you get the FBI comes to someone, they're going to wrap their entire body into the lie detector, right? They don't wrap the mind, they wrap the body. They're looking for respiratory, they're looking for blink rate. There's like all kinds of things that help them understand when we're lying. So the body is always telling the truth. And your brain is going to lie to you, like I said, with reckless abandon, but your body never lies. And when you embody this process, it allows you to deal with fear more like a horse. They're dealing with fear in the moment, and then they go back to like that rest and relaxation, which I think is really beautiful. And remember how I said that that idea of incongruence, when the inside expression doesn't match the outside expression, they're able to detect it right away. They sense it. They don't want to be anywhere around it. They don't trust it, right? And other people can sense that incongruency in us. So I think about, I don't know if you remember Bill Clinton saying publicly that he didn't have sexual relations with that woman. If you were tapping into your body, you kind of knew he was lying, right? And it's because we can sense that in other people. We know when they're lying. We know when they're telling the truth. And so the opposite is also true. The horses can sense when your inside expression matches your outside expression, which is really cool, because they can really get they really understand your magnificence, and they show it to you, which I think is so beautiful. And I call that congruence. And we can sense that in other people too. And so the question I would ask is, what do you already trust about yourself? My client, Ursina, who was on this call a little earlier, says she creates trust. And what she says about working with me is, Jen helped me shift from being an entrepreneur who didn't really trust herself yet to a confident businesswoman who knows her worth and acts like it. Since working together, I've been attracting more clients than ever, a life's worth of imposter syndrome gone, and I truly feel like I've won the lottery having found her. The reason my process works is because you will master your thinking, your emotions, and your behavior. The speed at which you can recover from fear is the difference really between achieving goals and not feeling calm and grounded or feeling reactive to life, having more confidence and feeling insecure, having a strong self-image or hiding who you are, building trust with yourself or reinforcing your self-doubt, making decisions or staying in confusion, and finding the gold in every situation versus finding all of the muck. And so the experience that you'll have when you put these 4 steps into place is that you will start to feel calmer. You will take more risks while following your heart and your heart's desire. You will feel truly free once you release that fear. And you'll take up more space in life, and you'll stop hiding from life. You will feel certain in uncertain situations. You will feel confident to bring your ideas into the world, and you'll feel grounded in your purpose here on earth. And you'll trust yourself, and you'll trust the decisions that go along with it. And the only skills that you need to develop really are a willingness to become aware of your thoughts, a commitment to embodying this process, and a desire to raise your standards for how you experience life. And the results that you create and the results that my clients create are they set goals and they achieve them, which is really fun when that happens. They feel calm and grounded, which happens every time. And they feel when they release fear, they actually, if they're not releasing it, they actually either recover much quickly than they were before, or sometimes like fear would catch them off guard and it doesn't catch them off guard anymore. Like it's like they get a more stable way of behaving around fear. They have more confidence and a strong self-image. They build trust with themselves. They build trust with God. They build trust with the universe. They build trust with their clients. Like there's so many beautiful things that come from this experience of releasing fear. They find the gold in every situation. They're able to take up more space, and they honor their word, and especially their word to themselves. We find that it's easier to honor the word to someone else than it is sometimes to honor your own word to yourself. So that completes the training part of this. And I just wanted to share what's next. If this is something that you want to do and you want to explore working with me, you can book a free consultation call with me. I will send an email after this session, so you can have the link to do that. It's just a virtual on Zoom 1-hour call with me. And on the call, we'll basically start to understand your behaviors. We'll start to see your patterns pretty clearly. I can spot it pretty quickly after talking to someone for a little while. And you'll be deeply listened to by me. And I will help you identify 3 areas that are going to improve when you release your fear. And you will leave confident that there is a solution to all of this. Any questions for me right now? I am happy to answer those questions. And I will drop a consultation link here too.
Jen, this was awesome.
Okay.
Absolutely awesome.
I'm so glad.
But I do want to do the consultation thing with you.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so go ahead and I put the little link in the chat if you want to grab it there.
I got it.
Okay, perfect. All right, I look forward to
Thank
being with you then. All right, beautiful.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.